Diego Rivera. Diego Rivera was born in 1886 in Guanajuato, Mexico. As a child, he was very intelligent and curious about everything. He grew up to be a strong and free-thinking man. Diego graduated from art school at the head of his class. He left Mexico in 1907 and spent many of the next 14 years in Europe. During this time, he continued to study art. The paintings of European artists such as Spanish painter Pablo Picasso had a great influence on his work. Rivera was also very interested in politics. When he returned to Mexico in 1921, he wanted his art to be a part of the history of his country. Mexico was not a democratic country at that time, but Rivera wanted Mexico to belong to all the people. He also believed that an artist's role was to fight for equality. Rivera thought his duty was to teach ordinary people with pictures. He wanted everyone to see his work, so he decided to paint murals. Murals are large pictures painted on the walls of buildings. His murals showed Mexican history, traditions, and culture. The government gave Rivera permission to paint a mural on a public school building. It was his first important mural, and it was very popular. Soon, other painters in Mexico started painting murals too, and Mexico became the world center for mural painting. Altogether, Rivera painted more than 2.5 miles of murals in his life. One painting had 124 parts. It showed Mexico's history. Rivera worked on this painting for more than 4 years. He did all the work himself and often worked 15 hours a day. Rivera lived in the United States from 1930 to 1934. He painted public buildings in Detroit and San Francisco. But his mural in New York City caused trouble. Rivera was a communist, and he put the communist leader of Russia, Vladimir Lenin, in the mural. Many Americans were very angry about this. They destroyed the mural, and Rivera left the United States. Rivera was a very big man. He was over 6 feet tall and weighed over 300 pounds. He was also a great showman. People paid money just to watch him paint. When he painted, he told stories. Usually, they were stories he made up about himself. People always wanted to hear more of his stories. Rivera had strong opinions about politics and religion, but people still admired him. He had many friends, especially women. He was married many times. In 1928, Rivera married for the third time. He married artist Frida Kahlo. She was one of Mexico's greatest painters. Some people said she painted better than he did. Rivera always said Kahlo was the best painter, and Kahlo always said Rivera was the best. They loved each other, but their marriage was stormy. They had many fights and separations. They even divorced and remarried. Newspapers always wrote about Frida and Diego. They lived in Mexico City in two separate houses with a bridge between them. Rivera's house was pink and Kahlo's house was blue. They had breakfast together every day, and then they each went home to work. In the evening, they met again for dinner. Frida Kahlo was in an accident when she was younger, and she was often in great pain. Many of her paintings showed this. She died at the age of 47. Rivera was very disturbed by her death, and people said he aged suddenly. But the next year he married again. 2 years later, Rivera died at the age of 71.